What's going on, everybody? DogMan Dan here. Warframe, Saryn Revisited. Let's talk about it. In the background, you got you're gonna see me running around in Invincible, just so I could test out the different changes. Okay, and level 100 enemies, variety of level 100 enemies throughout this. Just again to try out the different things and see the different stuff while we talk about what's actually happening here. So. Let's talk about these changes they made. They're pretty significant changes. Honestly, I mean, she just feels beastly now. Okay, even more beastly than what she was. You know, the Queen of Viral and Toxin Damage is now been slightly updated, and the rework just feels so good. It feels good here in the simulator. Feels good out in real world play. Okay. General changes here. So you got your Saryn, you got your Saryn Prime. So Saryn's base armor, the regular Saryn, has been increased. So at a max rank of 30, the base armor is 225. Okay, and for Saryn Prime's armor, the increase is now at rank 30 up to 300 from 225. So Saryn starts at 175, goes up to 225. Saryn Prime starts at a 225 base level up to a 300 at a rank 30, obviously before you add mods. So that's just good to know. There's pretty significant difference on both of them, but obviously Saryn Prime is a bigger gap in there. Okay, spores. These were awesome before. Now they're just insanely awesome. Spores now have infinite duration. You're going to see a spore counter on the right corner of the screen there. That just keeps going and going with escalating damage. It shows you how many spores, how many enemies are covered with spores. It'll show you, that damage that escalates while they keep going on. That means the duration of these spores is pretty much determined by the enemies that you've got affected. Okay, if enemies are dying to spores, the spores will continue to spread, which means you've got to shoot the spores. So having nice, highly accurate weapons to shoot the spores is actually just going to make life 10 times easier for you, because the spores are going to do all the heavy duty work now. You've got longer spores deal damage. More damage will continue to grow. I mean, this is just what they've done now. The big thing is they've swapped the viral damage over to corrosive, so it's a great effective tool against highly armored enemies, which is why I was playing around with some of these different enemies in here. And yeah, it just strips that armor down like it's nothing. Now, when we get into Molt, Molt, one of the goals here they're saying was to shake it up a bit. Okay, so with that in mind, you can no longer cast spores on Molt, on your Molt decoy, if you will. Molt is still a great tool, and actually it's pretty nice now with it as a distraction tool, yes, and not having to put the Molt spores on it. No big deal. I haven't really noticed that much of a difference in it. But they've changed it up now where Saryn will receive a movement boost. So you get a quick movement boost when you drop the Molt decoy, as well as it's going to do a armor scale, or it'll also scale similar to Rhino's Iron Skin, meaning that initial damage that it takes when you're putting it out after casting will make the decoy more resilient. And you're going to see that in the upper right hand of your screen there with your stats. It'll show you what that damage that is put in and the length of time that it'll last, if you will. So obviously once it reaches 0, the health reaches 0, it will explode with toxin damage to any enemy in the area. Which again, you're talking, you've now got spores that have corrosive everywhere. You've got your Molt that, of course, is stronger, lasts a bit longer, explodes with toxin damage, combined with your corrosive damage going on. On top of that, we add Toxic Leash. Toxic Leash was one of those abilities that was kind of hard before. You had to kind of build directly for Toxic Leash and kind of push everything else off. But now you can move things around. Toxic Leash is compatible with a variety of different playstyles, if you will. It will now apply to your primary, secondary weapons as well as your melee in addition. Okay, toxic last duration has been increased to 45 seconds, and weapons will trigger toxin status effect. So, just looking at these three right here, you've got corrosive damage, you've got toxin damage on the explosion of molt, now you've got toxin status effect going on with the toxic leash. You can see how even high level enemies are just going to come down like butter, like butter. And then you add miasma on top of that. Okay, I was just having too much fun with this. So miasma damage is swapped from corrosive to viral. Okay, and increased from 350 to 500. And miasma also does a 100% guaranteed viral status effect on damage. Miasma's duration has been increased to 3 seconds and deals double damage to targets affected by spores. Okay, so this is all going to be in how you combine this whole setup. They're going to do a rework on her audio as well, but when you take spores, corrosive damage, you get that going. You've got molt out there for your decoy and distraction, which on explosion causes toxin damage. You're running with the toxic leash on, doesn't matter what weapon you have now, because now your toxic leash is longer and it's triggering a toxin status effect. Okay? Can't go wrong there. And then finally, with those spores going everywhere, you drop that miasma, you got the guaranteed viral status effect on the damage, as well as the double damage for enemies affected by the spores. She is just a beast monster now. So if you haven't played her, oh my gosh, so much better now than before. You can really work a whole bunch of different ways in builds and setups now. You don't have to worry about toxic leash only being melee, so it'll work with any weapon now. I mean, I love these changes. Comments, questions below. I will catch you guys soon.